CFJ was formed by a group of community organizations which looked at the No on 187 campaign in 1994. That was the campaign against the attack on immigrants in California, and realized that there was a huge population of people in the state who weren't involved in the electoral system and didn't know quite how to do it, and that their communities were coming into the electoral system, and it was an organization formed by other community organizations to try to help that new emerging majority of people of color in California get involved and be able to fight back as they were attacked again in 1996 with the Anti-Affirmative Action Initiative, Proposition 209.
Had to find a way to build a core of people who would be ready to do the field work, the door-to-door, knock on the door, call people up, get them out to vote work when the time came. And so that's what the Million Voices for Justice was. It was a petition supporting affirmative action, multilingual in Spanish, Korean, Vietnamese, Chinese, English, of course. And we would go out, collect people's names and phone numbers, have a phone bank that called people up and asked them to come out and do the same thing. In effect, it was a pyramid scheme because we kept building a larger and larger core of people who were concerned about the issue. And then we began to include an educational component in which people learned about the issue and became spokespeople about the issue, people who had never thought that they would participate in the political process in any way, and a lot of them high school students.
Have you signed the petition? Would you like to sign the petition? It'll take less than a minute. I promise your ice will not melt.
Okay.
Okay? It's the California Civil Rights Initiative, which we like to call the Civil Wrongs Initiative, because what it would do is basically get rid of all affirmative action in California.
You know, there's no grassroots movement to kill affirmative action. What they did is they bought their way onto this ballot.
The heart of the whole movement and the heart of the struggle is education. There's no way we're going to ever come up with social change if we don't invest our personal time and our personal, experiences with each other. That's the only way we're going to come out with true change.
Get up, stand up.
Hey, hey, ho, ho. Big time students and now to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Big time students and now to go.
In the last year and a half, CFJ has been working on racial justice in public schools, K through 12 in California, and some of our older members of CFJ who have worked with us on other campaigns, not necessarily related to public education, have asked us, why should I be a part of this effort? It's really important for us to understand that if we want racial justice in this state, we have to be working to improve the public education system, because it is the largest institution in the state of California that has a majority people of color, young people of color, and it's really going to shape our future in this state. And so if we want to create a big impact change, we have to work on public education. And it takes all of us to do it. It's not just the students, it's not just the parents of those students, it's all of us.
Top story tonight, students in the South Bay say they have had enough. They're stepping up the campaign against racism on campus. A new report shows that nearly 1 in 5 Eastside High School students faces discrimination, harassment, and even outright racism from other students and even from other teachers.
Jessica, several of the students speaking out today are from Independence High School here. They helped put together this report that calls for changes at Eastside Union High Schools.
Some students claim they are being taught a subject that shouldn't be in schools, discrimination and racism. Jaime Castro says he was helping a classmate when he got a painful message.
My teacher came up to us and said, hey, if you want to speak Spanish, go back to Mexico.
The Eastside Union High School District has close to 25,000 students. The group Californians for Justice surveyed more than 1,000 of them. The students involved in the survey are demanding improvements. They want anti-racist teacher training, improved academic counseling, and a bilingual certification program. District Superintendent Joe Cotto signed a pledge. The student survey also revealed students of color want more help in preparing for college.
He never told me about college, never told me about what kind of different classes I can take in college or summer school classes or anything like that.
From our report, the student to counselor ratio is 1 to 500.
while the police ratio to students is roughly 1 to 323.
The improvement pledge calls for 10 more counselors in the Eastside Union High School District.
Long Beach School District needs a lesson in cleanliness. Dozens of kids complaining about unsanitary conditions in their school restrooms. The students took their complaints to the offices of the Long Beach Unified School District. They say the bathrooms at Long Beach Polytech High are a mess.
The locks are broken off. There are no toilet seats in a lot of them. There's no toilet paper in most of the stalls.
I have to go from bathroom to bathroom looking for one where there is tissue or paper towel or soap, or where the toilets are not leaking, because you cannot use the toilet where it's leaking and there's water on the floor.
Hey, hey, ho, ho! The X exam has got to go! Hey, hey, ho, ho! The X exam has got to go!
Parents and students from schools across Los Angeles are protesting the California high school exit exam. The protesters claim it punishes students for the educational system's failures. They're asking the California Board of Education to provide all California schools with credentialed teachers and curriculums that will prepare students for college. The board made passing the exit exam mandatory for students to graduate in 2004. More than half of 10th graders who took the exam last spring failed.
Today, hundreds of students armed with a clear message rallied at the state capitol. KTVU's Ken Pritchett is in Sacramento now with this report.
More than 1,000 students marched on the Capitol this morning to protest cuts to education.
And it's bad enough that we don't have enough money as it is to get everything that the students need.
But the education cutbacks passed in February that so angers these students could grow, dependent on the outcome of Tuesday's special election.
Thank you for joining us. Our top story at 10, passionate pleas from dozens of Fresno students today up in arms over the district's dropout rate.
Well, according to several studies, about 40% of black and Latino freshmen in Fresno high schools will not make it to their senior year before dropping out. It's a sobering statistic that has one local group calling for change.
We're addressing it from a racial justice point because there's an alarming 40% of our youth that are dropping out, and the majority of those folks that are dropping out are low-income youth and youth of color.
And members of the group Californians for Justice think they might know why.
It's a combination of a lot of things, a big one being discipline policies. The discipline policies, even though it doesn't say in paper, they directly affect low-income youth and youth of color disproportionately compared to other youth and their peers. And it also has to do with a lack of resources.
Instead of marching across the stage in their caps and gowns, these students are marching down the streets of Fresno to bring awareness to high dropout rates for minority students.
It's a really big problem. Almost half of our school has been dropping out.
Fresno High School student Sigal Kosman says one problem is how students and teachers interact with one another.
Well, I have a lot of friends that have dropped out because they haven't had a good student-teacher communication.
But they're also calling for more transparency and uniform discipline to encourage more minority students to stay in school.
The discipline policy, it needs to be reformed. It's not fair to the minorities.
Lonnie Wong is here to tell us exactly what happened at the state capitol today.
What do we want? Fair funding! When do we want it? Now!
The Campaign for Quality Education held its own rally to support low-income families and students of color who feel shortchanged by billions in education cuts. Students at this event at the state capitol say they are already feeling the effects of years of budget cuts.
Classes are being overcrowded. Right now, my biggest class has about 38 students.
The sacrifices we are making are only one-sided. Cuts and more cuts to education, while the top 1% of America's billionaires are sacrificing nothing. The right-wing agenda has dominated the budget debate by promoting a cuts-only budget, arguing that our taxes are hurt the economy. California must not believe this lie, because this year alone, an all-cuts budget could result in an additional $4.6 billion in cuts to education.